Hey everyone, Melanie Minshinger here, illustrator for Gina K Designs. Thanks so much for your patience on a video with Serene Skies and also waiting for this to come back in stock. It's been out for 2 or 3 months now and just came back, so I am so excited to share a project with you that I made for our release party. And I did a little poll this morning, informal, and it was pretty split, so I'm going to go ahead and just record those other ones for you because these are all very easy cards to make. But at the time that I looked, this was the one that most people were requesting that I do. So very minimal products for this. We're basically just using stamps, inks, and ink and paper today. Excuse me. I actually used the Master Layouts dies to cut out my mats on the original card, but I could not find my gray plate this morning. So I also couldn't find my stamp set, then I couldn't find my adhesive. It's just one of those mornings. So I went ahead and cut them out by hand with my cutter, but this one is 5 inches by 3 3/4, the black mat, and then the white mat that we're going to be using is just 1/8 of an inch smaller on each side. So dies or using your cutter, whichever way you want to do, but you just want to have a large border on your card of the Peach Bellini cardstock. Not using the Peach Bellini ink today. I'm going to be using the Wild Dandelion and the Tangerine Twist. I reserve the right to maybe say that we use a little bit of tomato soup. I just can't remember. I should have made notes. So if I want to darken this up at the end, I might add some of a darker orange or red ink. We're going to be using some of the blue denim and the powder blue ink for the sky, and then a few blending brushes. So I've got a blue, a yellow, and an orange. Just the Serene Skies stamp set today. I've got some acrylic blocks that we're going to be using. So for these power line stamps, I really recommend that you get a long block. This is so wonderful for borders. It's so easy to hold. So this is the one I got from Gina's store. I really like having a MISTI for anytime I'm using a greeting. So if you want to use your MISTI for this, you could also use it for your long stamps too. And then I also like to have a small block just because when I'm adding the individual birds or things like the branch, I have been stamping for almost 20 years now, and so I really like to be able to place those things on my own, but this is very precise, and if you miss an edge or anything like that, you can restamp it. So, but I'm going to be using really all 3 of these tools today. And then just some adhesive. So I've got the Gina K Connect glue here, and I think that's it. I've got a piece of paper here just to cover up my mat, to do my blending on, and to just soften up the ink on those blending brushes before I add it to my mat. So let's get started. I'm going to give you a lot of tips about how to use these different elements, these wonderful bird silhouettes, and the power line. So I think that's what people were being drawn to on this card, as well as the colors. So I'll go ahead and just put this over here so that you can see where we're going. So I like to do my blending first, and I'm going to start at the top with my darkest color. And the thing that I really like to do on these cards is not have everything perfectly blended. I really love having just some white space showing through. If you're not real comfortable with doing clouds, you can use a cloud stencil, and that looks gorgeous. But I'm just going to just start rubbing this on. Okay, so I kind of went like in an S pattern here, kind of mimicking what I did on this card. So that's going to give me some white space. So your eye is just going to be drawn to these different areas of your card. And so we're just going to start light because you can always go in and add more. Okay, now I made the top of this one really dark. So let's go in and just really make a dramatic top to that sky. This would also be gorgeous with some of the purple inks, like the wisteria or the lavender. I use the His Mercies Are New every morning greeting, but you can trade out the greetings. I just chose this one just because I felt like it went really well with the sky that I had blended, but also just kind of the size for this layout that I was doing. And you see how these different images and then the greeting, your eye just travels down the card. So feel free to go ahead and make your own changes to this layout, but this is just a really good example to show you how to use these different elements. I'm going to use just a little bit of the powder blue because it has a slightly different tone to it. It's not just lighter blue than the blue denim. It's just going to give you kind of a different, see, there's almost a little bit of green in it. And so I recommend using multiple ink colors if you have them in the same tone rather than just one blue or one orange. All right, so now I'm going to move down to, want to go ahead and put in my sun. And so we're going to do the rolling technique on this. And this just means that you are going to, rather than inking up the entire sun, so I hope you can see through that. It's got a little staining on it, but that's okay. It is clean. So what we're going to do is we're just going to roll it. So I hope you can see that there's no yellow ink on the middle of this. So I'm going to put it right about here. Okay. And I need to re-ink this stamp a little bit. So does look a little blotchy there. I'm just going to do it one more time. This is what the MISTI is good for, but I'm just lining that up and then inking it again. Okay, so now we've got our sun, and I really want that white part. This is going to create a lot of light in my card to have white on here. So I'm going to try to avoid doing any blending over that white part that I left. So let's go down to the bottom real quick here. We're going to do some of this tangerine twist. Okay, and we're going to take this up into that blue area. And you can also go over, I'm going to go over the sun just a little bit because you know how you get those colors and those clouds in front of the sun. And you might be able to see that I do have some harder, darker edges in both the blue and the orange area, and that is going to be for that cloud silhouette that I put in the set. So I'm going to add that in just a minute. So I'm going to take this up, let it kind of blend in there. And you can go off the edge here, make it darker, but since I'm using that long kind of deckled edge or torn silhouette at the bottom, I don't need to go all the way to the bottom. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is, let's see, let's go to the cloud now. So I'm going to do that same technique where I just rolled the edge of the stamp onto, so wait, let me show you, let me have this hover over. So you've got this longer cloud and then you've got a smaller cloud. So what I'm doing is I'm just rolling the edge of this onto, okay, and then I'm gonna ink it up again, this time a little differently. There. Okay, and now you can either just tap this off or you can use a little bit of stamp cleaner to clean it off. I'm going to do this with the blue, and for this one I want to have a little bit of that blue on the top but not quite as dark, so I'm going to stamp it off. So let me show you this. So we've got full strength, then we've got half strength. Then I'm going to just add a little bit here to the bottom of that and just roll that on there. Okay, I'm going to do that again where I'm going to tap this off, then roll just the bottom of it. So I've got a lighter blue and then a darker blue on the bottom. And put this over here. Okay, so you're getting the top of that cloud. And then I'm going to turn this over so we can get kind of a different shape. Again, stamp this off. And so I need to re-ink this pad. If you're seeing kind of the grain or the texture of that, then you need some re-inking. Okay, so I'm going to do just a little bit right here. Okay. All right. Now, and you can go back on and do a little bit more blending. So I'm going to add just a little bit more blue. Just want it really dark there. So these inks, they have a smoothing agent in them, so it really helps them blend, but sometimes you'll see as they dry down, it'll lighten just a little bit. So that's why I like to go back after I feel kind of like I'm done and add just a little bit more. Okay. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm going to put on this black here at the bottom. Okay. All right, so this is going to kind of ground it here, whether this is the tops of some trees in the distance, or some shrubs, or some hills, or some mountains. It can be so many different things depending on where you position it on your card and what ink color you use for your stamping. Okay, so I'm going to put this, just want a skinny little strip right here. Okay, and if you want to do another one and kind of make it overlap, you can do that. And then that's going to give you a slightly different line. Okay, it's going to change the profile of that silhouette, whether it's making the hill in the valley or the valley in the hill. Okay, now what I want to do, let's go ahead and make sure I have room for my greeting here. So I'm going to go ahead and add that His mercies are new every morning. And these two greetings are split so that you can make them into one long greeting or to stack them like I did on this card. So you can have them centered, you can have it staggered. It's going to give you a lot of options when you're doing your layout. So just to make sure that I get this straight and to make sure that I don't get like the top half and not the bottom half or miss a letter, I'm going to go ahead and use my MISTI for it. So I've got every morning here, and His mercies are new. And I kind of want that overlapping the sun. I kind of like that little His being right there every morning. Okay. Just like that. Pardon my head. Okay, so I'm going to close that. Make sure that stays down. Ink this up. We've got just a very classic font here. I think it looks just so beautiful with the scripture. Love these encouraging words. I'm going to do it one more time. I want it to just be really nice and sharp and black. Okay. All right, so there's my greeting. I know everyone's like, get to the birds. And you could have done these earlier. We could have done this before the bottom, but I was just working my way up. Probably the first time I did it, I did the power lines first, and you might choose to not have a greeting at all. So the one that we're going to use here, let me move this out of the way really quick just to show you your different options, because I have so many different power lines in here. I've got the straight one that already has birds on it, and you can add a greeting in here, or you can add more of these birds. I've got this curved one that you can make even more curved or more straight. You can have it go any way you want, and then you can have just one bird or the bird of your choice. And then I've got this straight one here at the bottom. So the one that we're using today is this middle one that already has birds on it. So you can see I've got 2 different power lines, but depending on where you position this, you can make it look like you've got the group of birds on the left or on the right. So the top one, I'm using this end of it, and the bottom one, I'm using this end of it, and then I added another bird. Okay, now don't worry too much about the angle of these power lines, because I don't know if you have power lines in your neighborhood. I do. I live in an older neighborhood. Others have them under the ground, so you might not see them as often, but you can always Google reference images, and that can really help you make your scenes more realistic. So you see this will straighten out, but then you can also make it curved. So I love just how they kind of, the older ones just sort of hang kind of low and lazy in the sky. So you can change the shape of this. What you don't want is it to look like a triangle or something. That's not going to be very natural. So just let it fall, you know, kind of gently, and just make sure that it's just a nice soft curve there. Okay, so even straighten that out a little bit more. All right, so I'm going to have this little group at the top. So I'm going to ink this up, and I'm going to go off the edges of my card just to make sure it doesn't end before the edge of my mat. All right, so I've got one up here, and this group is really going to be highlighted by that little cloud space that I left open. Okay, and I probably should have used the MISTI, because again, I said I need to re-ink this pad. So I'm going to carefully try to re-stamp this. Pardon my head. And really press there. I just don't think I pressed hard enough because I'm trying to stay out of the way. Okay, so I doubled it up there. Don't do as I do. Do as I say. Okay, so let me see if I've got a re-inker handy. I do. Let me re-ink this a little bit. Make this pad a little bit juicier. So the best way to do these, especially when you have like fine images, fine detail on your images, is to use the MISTI so you can stamp again if the first one didn't get it as well. All right, so the second one I'm going to do, I want to use this end. Okay, so I'm going to go right here, make sure this is really well inked up, and then I'm going to, yeah, I was just leaning back a little bit too much, so I didn't have even pressure on it. So I'm going to put it right about, make sure I get that other bird right there. Okay, so right here. Okay, much better, much better. Okay, so I'm going to claim that was just user error with just trying to stay out of the video here. So just firm, even pressure down, re-ink your stamp, see how much of a difference that made. I'm not going to get hung up on that though. This is a piece of art. It doesn't have to be perfect. I keep going on my cards. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do some filling in to customize this a little bit. So I had the branch in there, and I just like the interest that that adds. And I'm going to put my sun back on. So let's just add a little branch down here. And this is really creating kind of a lot of depth in this card as far as interest with the scene, that you've got the high and then down to the low, that you've got a tree branch over here, and then it just makes those power lines seem even higher. Okay, so that's nice and crisp there now that I've re-inked my pad. And some of you might re-ink, you know, if you have a long, you know, heavy stamping session every time. I need to do it more often. So, okay, and then I wanted to have a flying bird just to have your eye kind of travel up there. So we've got some different flying birds in this set. I used this one here. All right, so let's see how I do with stamping this one. Okay, and depending on the angle that you do, you know, it might look a little bit more encouraging or uplifting that it's going up. And you can also just kind of think about if you have a little boo-boo, maybe an area you didn't blend as well, you could cover it up. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to add in, I just wanted to add in just one more little bird to fill this out a little bit more. And so I think I grabbed Let's see. I added, which one did I add? This little guy? Yeah, this one. Like this little one right here. Okay. So I'm going to ink him up. And you want the base or the top of that tail to hit the edge of that power line. So it looks like it's just sitting right there on the power line. Okay. All right. So that is it. And if I want to go in, I think I want to make this a little darker down here because that is what is really making this card pop, the contrast of the blue and the orange ink. And let's see, I'm going to grab my Tangerine Twist pad, just add some more down here, put on some of that tomato soup. If you have the peach Bellini and you really want to get that coordination going with the cardstock, you can do that. So here's some tomato soup. So I'll just show you. I'm pretty sure I just used the tangerine. So to see kind of the difference, you know, it's just got more brown in it. There we go. And I think I want to do maybe just one more. I'm going to use the smaller cloud. I'm going to do just another cloud up there. So take the smaller one, stamp it once, roll it. I'm going to put another one just right up here. And that is going to fade out as before. See how much these faded? And then if you want to darken it back up again, you just keep working on it. It's so much fun to make these blended skies. We could just keep playing and I could keep talking. But I hope you enjoyed this card. I think the next one I'm going to do is showing how you can use the barbed wire fence and using that post element. And then on that particular card, I actually embossed my sun. So that is going to be a different look. So we're going to do an emboss resist technique on that. So I'm going to get that all queued up. I need to adhere this really quickly to my mat just so you can see the finished card. And I have got something really, really fun I'm excited about that coordinates with this stamp set that's coming out in just 2 weeks on August 6th. So this came back just in time. And if you like this look of these silhouettes, whoa! And doing blended skies, you are going to want this new set. Just dab that all around. Okay. So I hope you can join us for our release party at 7 p.m. Tuesday, August 6th. And we ordered a ton of the Serene Skies since it had been out of stock, and we had a couple hundred people on the wait list. So I think it is going to go fast. I hope it's still in stock when the release happens. If not, we will order more. But you will love the way that they work together. Okay, so I'm just going to place that right there on my card. And I hope this gives you lots of ideas for how you can use these different images, the power lines, the steckled edge. I also love how it really just gives texture to your card. I think I showed how you can make that look like you actually have a torn edge on one of my other samples. So there's the card. Again, I made a little boo-boo there, but I'm not worried about it. It's a piece of art, and I know that my friend is going to love it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week and have a very blessed day. Love you guys. Bye-bye.